Good morning. It's Friday morning and it's the 27th of August. I'm not sure that I need to keep reminding you of the day and the date as we did when we first started off these reflections, because days are no longer all the same, and people probably know exactly what day it is and what date it is, but it's kind of become a habit. Or maybe I'm just reminding myself so that I know what day it is, and what deadlines are coming up rather quickly. Friday, the end of the week again, and the end of the first full school week for the students, at least. And looking forward to the weekend, no doubt. And as I'm looking forward to the weekend, as everyone else is, I'm also been looking back a little bit, not quite sure why. I was remembering times when I was very, well, I'm going to say very small, very young. We lived in Edinburgh, growing up in Edinburgh. And there was a special treat that we had, not every week by any manner of means, but from time to time, I think especially if there was something special happening, then we were taken to a shop called Ginny. And the Ginny shop was a sweetie shop in East Cross Causeway, I think, just the south side of Edinburgh. And we would wander along there. It was very close to where we stayed in the tenements along there. We'd go along there or be passing when we were shopping. And if we were out as a family, we would get to go into Ginny to choose a sweetie. Now, Ginny made some homemade things as well, toffee apples. And so it was always a treat if you saw toffee apples were available. Toffee apples seems to have been a treat in those days. I'm not sure if it still is or not. I remember them from Ginny but also remember them from a shop in Cellardyke. We used to go there for our holidays every year, Cellardyke and Strother. And there's a wee shop, as I remember, that you went down steps to, and their window was onto the sort of ground level of the wee street that you walked along. And they had toffee apples too. But the treat wasn't to go and get a toffee apple. The treat was to go and choose a quarter of sweeties, a wee poke, a wee bag of sweeties. And as I remember it, that shop was lined with those jars of boilings and sweeties and all sorts of things. And the homemade sweets were out on the counter, open on the counter, and were weighed out as people wanted them and put into those paper bags. And those paper bags were held on to tight all the way home, and sometimes even till after we'd had our lunch or dinner at the middle of the day before we were able to have a sweetie. And I don't actually remember what I chose as a sweetie. I think we were allowed virtually anything we wanted. I think violet creams, they were expensive, so they weren't on the menu. But anything else, I don't remember what I chose, or my brother or my mum. But I do remember my dad always chose peppermint creams. And I remember on very, very, very special occasions, he was allowed a £1/2 of those sweeties, which did him a long time. Because what I was also remembering is that, as you might expect, my wee poke of sweeties didn't last long once I was allowed into them. But my dad would put them into a wee jar, a wee bowl, and it'd be one at a time. And I don't mean just, go back for the next one immediately finished. He would put off in between times. He made them last. And I think possibly because, well, it was such a treat, he wanted to make them last. And I don't know why he always chose peppermint creams. Thinking these days, I'm thinking maybe because it was basically sugar and a bit of peppermint essence. I think maybe it was one of the cheaper options. And so that gave the rest of us a chance to have something else. He was also very good. He had a very sweet tooth, and he loved chocolate, and his favourite was Cadbury's chocolate. Other chocolates were and are available, but Cadbury's chocolate, and when he got that as a special treat, as was, he would break up the bar into squares and put them in a bowl and take one square at a time. I mean, such discipline. My dad taught me lots of things. He taught me to drive, and he taught me lots and lots of things. But you never quite managed to teach me that discipline of not eating all your sweeties at once. Maybe that's something I've still to learn. Because in thinking about making things last. It wasn't so much about not sharing and not being generous. They were all shared. And we could actually have as much as we wanted, but he was very disciplined in what he took. But I think possibly it was because there wasn't a lot around. He wasn't used to having these things. And what he had, which was special, he really did make last. Very special times. And I think maybe there's still time for me and us to learn from our pasts and from the people of our past, even though they might not be with us any longer, to stop a while and remember them and remember why they were so special. Okay, parents are special anyway, children's family, but just what of their character, their personality made them so special. And there's lots of things, of course, that we will think about for each person. I today, and this morning particularly, have been thinking about the way my dad shared things out, made things last, not stretching them out to infinity, but just making them last for a good period of time by the way that he used. It was basically his stewardship of what was there. And today we've got lots of questions about stewardship of all of creation and how we use the resources that are around us, not assuming that they are ours to do with as we please and that we can guzzle them up and use them, but to realise that we need to share equally and we need to make them last. And to do that, we need to be careful. Also, stewardship of the things that we actually have, even in our cupboards. I mean, there's no sin in having enough to eat, and there's no sin in having cupboards full. It's simply that we need to recognise what we do have, and then perhaps find ways that we can help others to have the same, similar, to have at least enough. And with the stewardship of creation, with climate change, with COP26 coming up, with the understanding and the knowledge and the realisation that around us in our own communities are people who are struggling to cope day by day and put food on the table, and food banks frontline Fife that are still needing donations of groceries, of things to eat, of money, still needing that help from those who have, which is me, to those who haven't, which are others. And then, of course, we have this huge concern at the moment for refugees. Refugees are not new on our horizon, but at the moment we are seeing on our screens the sad, awful scenes of people trying to get out and to find a safe haven. And we know that there will be Afghani refugees, let's call them Afghani families, who are coming to stay in Scotland and to find refuge here. And we are all, I think, desperate to find ways that we can help. And the donations of clothing, of course, and hopefully that will continue as required. Donations of phones and SIM cards for those who come across so that they can keep in touch with their families, wherever they may be. Ways that we can share our country, our resources, our space, our time. There's a lot that we can share because we have, and I don't want to stop there, we have plenty. So today, as I do think about my dad, my family, and days gone by, as we all do so often, and that great Jeannie Veitch shop, we also need to think about what we have got today that perhaps we guzzle, or we protect, or we put in our own little cupboard so that no one else can have any of it. And perhaps we need to be more open and generous with what we've got. I know that so many of you are so generous already, and that's great. I know that I, for one, can do more and should do more. So that's my wee prompt for the moment. And I thought about how it is that we are open. I think open's my word for the day. To be open to other people, to be open to other ways of doing, to be open to other ways of sharing, and to be open to sharing things that perhaps I hadn't considered before. And as I was thinking of the word open, I like words, as you know, I like words and I like playing with words. So open, I thought, could be offering a welcome. That's the main one. O for offering a welcome. And that just encompasses so much. A welcome to all. A welcome to all of creation around me. A welcome. I put the P, I put preparing myself to help. Preparing ourselves to help. What do we need to do for ourselves, to prepare ourselves to be more, more generous, more noticing what's going on round about us, more noticing the needs that is there, and to prepare myself to what I be able to do to help. E for encouraging. Now that can be for anyone and everyone around about us. We all need encouragement, especially at the moment. I think many people are feeling weary. And maybe in having a project, whatever that might be, or a charity, whatever that might be, or a concern for the world, whatever that might be, might encourage us to think again about our own situation and how good it is, how bad it is, how concerning it is, how blessed it is, and to see where we can be encouraged, but where we can encourage others and find a way forward. And the N is for, strangely enough, never. Never giving up. Never closing down. Never closing minds or hearts, and realizing that one small act, one word, one prayer can make a huge difference to somebody. Maybe to ourselves as much as anyone else. So it's never giving up. So my word for today is open. Offering, preparing, encouraging, and never giving up. I'm sure in the last 16 months there's been times when all of us have thought, just give up. This is too hard. Well, it's too hard when we do things on our own. But when we do things together, and when we support one another, as we are called to do, not only as Christians but as human beings and as part of God's creation, then perhaps we will find God's way forward. And I know that as and when we find God's way forward, step by step, however large or small that might be, we are on the right track and we will find ourselves truly, truly encouraged. So maybe that's your word for today, or maybe you can find a different word, a word that you can work on today. For me, that is my prayer for today. And maybe it can be yours too. Open. Offer a welcome to whoever is around you. To the people in your house already, a welcome cup of coffee, a welcome bun or a biscuit or a poke of sweeties. Prepare yourself to give to those who are in need and encourage and be encouraged. And that last word, never. Never give up. Never think that we have nothing left to give. For we, most of us here, have a faith in the God who has given us everything and has given into this world everything that everyone needs. So whether it's giving to a charity, offering a welcome to an Afghani family or a family that are struggling, or to a friend or a stranger who's in need, let's do something today that starts this weekend off on absolutely the right note. And my prayer for all of you and for me and for all creation is that we do find the way forward together to be complete, unified, healed, and one creation in God. God bless you in the day, whatever it holds for you, wherever you're going, whoever you're meeting. God bless you and keep you as always.